Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, it's been actually a pretty busy news day if you kind of dig into it and see what's going on. There's a lot of wag the dog, distraction over here, don't pay attention to this, we're doing this. And then there's also some things coming out that, I mentioned the other day, as much as some of my listeners still don't like to hear this, that the whole MAGA movement, the strength of it is starting to show some cracks. So there's just a lot of little things happening. Let's start off with Venezuela. Well, it does still look like things are about ready to happen. Several airline companies are no longer flying in that area, and if you look at flight radar, there's a pretty big empty hole over Venezuela. While there's not been any specific movement yet, there's been some, certain flights out of Venezuela to certain countries and certain specific flights from the United States into neighboring countries. There was an executive plane that usually houses top-ranking, like the vice president or top-ranking generals that was flown into Puerto Rico today, which it's not a normal thing to see. So there's definitely movement going on, and there's becoming more and more videos of ships off the coast and that are getting ready. Now, what's interesting is there's also at the same time all this talk of Russia, Ukraine. Russia proposed this peace deal. It's come out now that the United States did back it, but it was completely a Russian document. That the document was completely Russian. The United States said, okay, we'll present it to Ukraine and kind of pressure them to accept it. Well, Europe has said, no, Ukraine is not accepting this. Here's our, counter argument, counter proposal. And of course, Russia has, rejected Europe's counter proposal. So nothing really is happening on that front much different than anything else. I think that may just be possibly a distraction, who knows, from Venezuela. I don't know, it's possible. One thing that I noticed that's kind of happening because of all this stuff, or that it's just happening, British naval ships have detected and escorted a couple of Russian warships out of the English Channel. I mean, that's getting pretty doggone close to Britain. And aside from the United States sending so much money and weapons into Ukraine, Britain has been really the biggest supporter. I mean, they've been on the verge of sending troops in there and all kinds of stuff. And so there's some pressure, it seems to be happening there. Economy's still just getting the doo-doo hitting the oscillator type of thing. Came out in the news today that home foreclosures are up 32% over last year. It's the highest. I think they said it's the highest it's ever been. Like, this is getting into serious territory. Tyson Food is shutting down a big beef processing plant. And here's the thing, the president talked about how we're going to have this big boom and beef prices are going to come down and all this kind of stuff. Why would the nation's largest, or at least one of the largest, I think it's the largest beef processing company, why would they be shutting down processing plants? If they expect that, the prices of beef is going to come down and people are just going to be processing the snot out of it, why would they be shutting down processing plants and laying off, a couple of thousand people? Because it's not gonna get better, folks. Just thought I'd throw that out there. General Flynn, remember him? General Mike Flynn. He was really big during the 2020 election, talking about the stolen election and all that kind of stuff. He came out today and said there is no 5D chess being played. What you see is what you get. So quit believing that there's some kind of deep dark 5D chess that's being played. Marjorie Taylor Greene also said pretty much the same thing, that there's no 5D chess being played. Folks need to stop believing that. Stop believing that there's some deep, dark plan of chess being played and, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to allow this to happen, we're going to do this and allow this to happen. You know, the whole Epstein thing, oh, well, you know, he was against for it, then he was against releasing it, and now he said to go ahead and do it. And it's all part of this 5D chess to, like, you know, it's not, folks. It's not happening. Quit believing things that aren't true. And if you really step back and view things from an unbiased opinion, you can see that there ain't no 5D chess being played. It's chaotic, and it's kind of fly by the seat of the pants kind of thing. There's a lot going on. And, you know, for you and I, we sit back and we try to balance all of the drama that's happening in the world and how it could affect us with what's really happening in our lives. And like I've said, for the most part, what happens in a day-to-day life for most Americans, it doesn't reflect all of this craziness. I mean, yeah, prices are up. Your money's not going as far. You know, you're certainly able to, your purchasing power is less. People are losing money left and right. I saw that earlier, I think, that banks have lost now, because of the dramatic drop in Bitcoin, they've lost something like $350 billion in value because of Bitcoin dropping. I mean, I'm sure they're just taking the opportunity to buy it up and everything. That's what a lot of, you know, people are. They're waiting for it to hit bottom. But the average person, you know, we go about our daily lives, and that's why it's so easy for the average person to not be in tune to all this, because we go about our daily lives and it doesn't seem to affect us. And honestly, it's not, for the most part, until things get bad, like really bad. And that's where the preparedness comes in. So yes, these things are happening, but they're not at a critical point yet to where they directly affect us. Remember back with COVID, this is a prime, perfect example. You know, during COVID, when it first started, I was one of the very first people on the YouTube prepper scene that was talking about it. I was talking about it before there was ever even a confirmed case in the United States. I was warning people that this something is up with this one. This one is going to affect us. And I was saying all along, I can't tell yet if it's an actual real deadly disease or if they're just going to hype it up and use it against us. And you know what? In the beginning, most Americans just ignored it, right? Remember all that? They were ignoring it. And then all of a sudden, the hype and everything affected enough people that people started panicking. That's when you started seeing it, people at the grocery store with 50 gallons of milk and, you know, 500,000 rolls of toilet paper and, you know, all this kind of stuff, because it reached a point that people panicked. That's what I'm on here trying to talk to you about. These things that are happening, Venezuela and Ukraine and Russia and China and the stock market and the dollar value and all those kinds of things, they are progressing. You know, the big, you know, surveillance state, AI surveillance state, all that stuff is progressing. It's just not at a critical point yet to where it's affecting enough people that they panic over it. But at some point, one or several of these things are bound to reach that. And so that's what we have to prepare for. You know, is, like I've said, is us invading Venezuela going to be the end-all, be-all thing? Not at first. It could eventually become that. If the stock market completely collapsed and we had another Great Depression type of event, you know, big stock market crash, if it, you know, lost 20, 30, 50% of its value in a day or two, would that be the end-all, be-all, end-of-the-world event? No, of course not. But at some point, things are going to get bad enough that people will panic. And in the end, the biggest threat to you is not the government or, you know, your money losing value and all that. Your biggest threat is people. Is people behaving badly. And they behave badly when they panic. They act like cattle. They just literally do. I'm not putting humanity down or anything. It's just, that's a fact. It's just like going into a big old herd of cattle and spooking them and, you know, get them to the point. You can do a few things and they may moo and they may move around and they grunt and they snort and they stomp. But then at some point, you do something and it causes enough of them to panic, and then the whole herd panics. People do the same thing. So that's what we're preparing for, really. Yes, we're preparing for crashes and for explosions and for EMPs and war and you know, AI, crackdown, big brother, beast system, all that kind of stuff. But really, in the end, what you're preparing for is when people realize it is bad, and then it's too late. That's what happens. That's why they panic. Once the average person realizes it's really bad, it's too late by that point, and that's why they panic. So that's why you've got to stay ahead of the curve, keep yourself prepped up, and kind of keep an eye on these things, so that when it gets to that critical point that people start losing it, you're ready for it. You're already ready, and you have a plan to jump into action. Just like what happened during COVID, and it's what's going to happen with something else. Who knows? Maybe it'll be another pandemic. They're all talking about now that one rare case of H5N5 that's, you know, never happened in humans. That person passed away the other day. And so there's already rumors flying that may be the next big one. And that's right here in the United States. So anyway, so when you hear me talk about these things, it's not just for entertainment necessarily, and it's not just to waste your time. It's to give you a heads up on what's going on, how bad it's getting, so that you can stay ahead of the curve. And put a lot of focus on, like, yourself, your local, your group, your people, your community. Because in the end, when people, you know, lose it and they panic, that's all you're going to have. You know, you can't depend on the government and everyone else to help you. It's just what's right around you in your immediate area that you know and you trust. And so you got to work on that. So that's why you need to be getting your houses in order, folks, and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.